be recording this. We have people that have requested to be able to view it, so we are recording. And as soon as I let everyone in, we will begin probably in about 4 minutes. If you can put your name and your affiliation in the chat, it would be great to see who's here. And we have a full complement of panelists today. And I know we have quite a few people attending. I think I have 50 RSVPs, so I will try to let everyone in. Welcome, and please put your name and affiliation in the chat for me. Thank you. We will be starting shortly. And you are at the ECE EDU Regional Joint Venture, Community of Practice, with the amazing panelists that we have ready today. And Sean, I see you're in. Hello, Sean. And Sean, you will be going right after me, okay? And thank you all for joining. We will start in 3 minutes. Please put your name and affiliation in the chat. And you are at the correct place. ECE EDU Apprenticeship. This is our first COP of this semester. So thank you all for being here. We hope your new semester is going off well. I know some colleges have been in session for quite a while and others are just starting. So either way, this is a busy time of year for everyone. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to wait till we get to 40 participants and then we'll get started. Then I can add people. And Nicole, you're a co-host. I think you could, if I miss anyone when I'm talking, if you want to just let them in, I think you can do that also. So thank you. Okay. Hi, Peter. Hi, Jenny. Hi, everybody. Oh, hi, Kristen. How are you? Hi, Bill. Oh, good to see everyone's faces. I'm not going to look, so I'll be talking to everyone individually, and I'll never get through this. Welcome to the ECE EDU Community of Practice. Put your name in the chat and your affiliation in the chat. And I think we're going to get started. So, Nicole, if you could help me let people in, that would be great. And let's get started. So, again, this is our first community of practice for this semester. Welcome. I hope everyone's off to a good start. And here's your instructions. Introduce yourself in the chat. And if for some reason you're not in our email listserv, just add your name and your email and I'll be happy to add you. Okay. So we have a few announcements, which I'd like to make before we get started with our program. One is that Teach for the Bay number 4 is scheduled for the end of October. And as you all may recall, many of you have done presentations and many of you, there's a lot of familiar names here, know what Teach for the Bay is, but it's our free virtual student-facing conference for the San Francisco Bay Area. We hope that we get students, both high school, community college, as well as four-year colleges, as well as some existing teachers always take part. We have presentations, we have workshops, we have keynote. So we're really excited about how it's shaping up, and anyone who's on this who would like to do a presentation or bring their students, or we encourage you, if you're faculty, to offer extra credit to your students to come. It's kind of all about entering the early childhood and TK to 12 field, everything you need to know, A to Z. It's a great way to build your enrollment, recruit for your programs. We're hoping to have some apprenticeship programs highlighted, so feel free to apply for a workshop. Our workshop proposal form is linked below. And I'm happy to send this PowerPoint. We do post the PowerPoints and the recordings on our BACCC website, but if you'd like it, just email me and I can get it to you sooner. This is our flyer here, and that's also available to send out via email to both students. It's student facing, so we want future teachers to attend, as well as current teachers that just need inspiration. So I hope all of you are excited about it and are interested in participating. Tracy.
Hi, I just wanted to say hello to everyone, and I wrote some information in the chat, but I'm happy to support anyone with anything related to Teach for the Bay. Just let me know.
Great. And Tracy's our conference coordinator, so please email her. If you don't catch the email, you can email me and I'll connect you with her. So thank you so much, Tracy. Also, we're in the midst of producing a new labor market publication for 2023. So if you are writing grants, if you are interested in new data, if you need additional updated information, we will have that soon, and I might be able to get the data to you before it's actually published. So, and this helps with understanding the labor market demands in our sector, as well as really with a focus on the San Francisco Bay region, job openings, projections for the next 5 years. So our last one was 2021, 2022. So this one does have some post-COVID data also. So stay tuned. And email me if you need it. It's very good for grant applications or to justify program expansion or something. So let me know. Okay. And also a reminder that all of our materials are housed at our BACCC site. And you can look that up, or I can give you the direct link, and it's linked in the PowerPoint. Okay. So we'd like to first welcome Sean McCobb from the State Chancellor's Office. And I did let you in, Sean, so I know you're somewhere. Welcome, and thank you for taking some time with us. I know you're on a busy schedule today. So we were hoping you would have a couple of updates and announcements, and I kind of put 3 areas we're hoping to hear from you on. Anything you have about current contracts, anything you have about updates, about new funding, CAI funding, anything else, and any announcements you have from the State Chancellor's Office. So Sean, take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Kathleen. Hello, everyone. Sean McCobb. I'm the Apprenticeship Program Lead in the Chancellor's Office Workforce and Economic Development Division. Nice to see everyone today. Some updates to go through. I can touch on the current CAI contracts. So we have the December 2022 application round of contracts that are still getting finalized. A large number of them. I don't know if I could say the vast majority, but quite a large proportion of them are signed and active at this point. I'm aware that there are maybe 14 agreements in my queue that still need to get signed by districts, and then there's maybe 15 that have gotten signed by districts and waiting to get signed by the chancellor or the deputy chancellor. But I think we're at pretty close to that number of agreements that just need to get finalized at this point. I imagine those are mostly the planning grants, as those were the later of the agreements that we went out, but I would have to double check just to make sure that there weren't earlier ones that are still struggling. If your agreement is not signed yet, there is a decent chance, about 50-50 at this point, that it's waiting on your district signer to sign the agreement. So it's worth checking in with me if that's your situation. If you didn't get that email from me recently, I actually did email all of those contacts recently. But yeah, just get in touch if your agreement's not signed yet, and we'll figure out where it is in the process. Updates on new funding. A moderately new funding source that I'll get into in a second, but no real new funding sources at this point, but I'll give the update on what's going on with our current funding. So related and supplemental instruction reimbursement is one of our funding programs. For those of you that don't know, part of apprenticeship programs is mandatory related and supplemental instruction, which is the classroom instruction portion of an apprenticeship program, and we offer reimbursement for that instruction. It can be reimbursed through the hourly related and supplemental instruction reimbursement program, which is what I'm going to talk about. It can also get reimbursed if the instruction is for credit and provided by a community college faculty member through community college apportionment. I call that FTE reimbursement for RSI. And no new update, well, a moderate new update there. I'm just going to get into full RSI update at this point. So the most significant RSI update is that we've updated the reporting in NOVA. And we've updated the reporting in NOVA to capture FTES RSI reporting.
Okay.
So that happened because there is a code section in the law, I believe it's in the labor code, that says the chancellor's office is required to be able to report to the Division of Apprenticeship Standards and then separately to the California Apprenticeship Council, the number of apprentices and the hours of instruction per program that are reimbursed through both the FTE model, FTES model, and the RSI hourly reimbursement model. So we've updated the RSI reporting in NOVA to capture that information about FTES reporting, the number of apprentices and the hours of instruction per program. But it's a two-part report for FTES at this point. Always that reimbursement would have had to have been reported through the community college apportionment system, the Form 320 system. There's an apprenticeship section within the Form 320. So if apprentices or if instruction is being reimbursed through FTES, those hours need to be reported on the Form 320, and then that information in NOVA is just supplemental information that's in addition to what's reported in the Form 320. So I want to make it clear we are collecting this information in NOVA, but it has to get reported on the Form 320 in order to receive reimbursement. And then the information that's getting reported in NOVA is supplemental information that allows us to report out the details that we are required to. So that's the most significant RSI update, is that change in NOVA. The allocation or the hourly RSI rate, reimbursement rate, is tied to the credit rate, and I believe it is the same rate, but specifically the RSI rate in 23-24 is going to be $9.98 per hour for reimbursement. If hours are reported beyond a institution's allocation, if there's funding available at the end of the year, those hours may be reimbursed also, but they may not be reimbursed at that full $9.98 rate. They'll be reimbursed at kind of whatever's left over at that point. But for all allocated hours, they would be reimbursed at $9.98. Let's see here. Significant there, the recalc report is due for RSI reporting. The recalc report is the final report for RSI hourly reporting. That's found in NOVA. And it's important to note that you're going to want to report all of your hours of instruction in that recalc report. So for the entire year. We've been updating NOVA this year, as I've kind of just discussed. And up until yesterday, there was a cumulative total row in the RSI reporting page that was confusing people, because why would there be a cumulative total row if you're supposed to report all of your hours in the report? There wasn't supposed to be that row. We got it removed. So now that confusion is no longer there. What else? Another update related to RSI is there is a CAC, the California Apprenticeship Council, administrative practices document is in draft form at this point, or at this moment. That document is a document that describes all of the administrative practices that are related to the hourly RSI reimbursement program. So it includes definition of key terms and entities and acronyms. It includes instruction on how to count apprentices and the hours of instruction that you're going to report. It provides instruction on how to report, and a lot of information is in that document. It's in draft mode right now because it's been updated just recently, and we're looking to gain feedback. So if anybody is interested in providing feedback on that document, it's available on the California Apprenticeship Council's website, which is part of the DAS, or webpage, which is part of the DAS, the Division of Apprenticeship Standards website. And you can find the document under the Related Instruction Subcommittee. There's a link to it there, and then that committee will be collecting feedback on the document. One area of note that came up in the most recent CAC meeting was there was a discussion around the rate for which LEAs could charge apprenticeship programs for their administration of that funding. So if you want to get in on that conversation, review the document and give feedback through the RSI subcommittee there, just as an example of something that might be of people's interest. Just going to say it one more time, the recalc report for RSI reporting is due November 1st. If your institution does not have an allocation, you can still report hours. And like I said, if there's funding available at the end of that reporting, then those hours may be funded. If your college does not currently have a profile to report RSI hours, reach out to my team at apprenticeship at our chancellor's office email handle, which is apprenticeship@cccCCO.edu. Say you would like to start reporting RSI and you don't have a profile and you need to get set up, and we'll get you set up. That's pretty much everything related to RSI. I don't know if question and answers are appropriate, but if anybody has questions and that's a permit, I can answer your questions related to RSI real quick.
Do you have any updates on CAI?
I do, yes.
Okay.
All right. So CAI, the big update is that we are releasing a new RFA and opening a new application. That is going to happen imminently. The RFA is currently under review. We've really kept it the same as before, with just slight updates. So those slight updates are that we are prioritizing the award of implementation grants for grantees that received the December 2021 CAI HRTP grants. Those were 4 grantees. So that's going to be applicable to only those 4 colleges or those 4 institutions that received those grants, but they'll be prioritized for an implementation grant to build off of that HRTP grant. Additionally, though, the December 2022 CAI planning grantees will have that same prioritization. So if you received a December 2022 CAI planning grant and you are anticipating you will be successful and have a program registered or just about registered by June 30th, 2024, then please apply for a CAI implementation grant in this current round that will be opening soon, and that will keep you going and further the planning efforts. Additionally, we're giving extra starting points. These are competitive awards, so they're reviewed and given points based off of the content of the application. But applications that utilize dual enrollment between K-12 LEAs and community colleges are going to receive additional starting points just right off the bat. And then programs that are connected with standard sets that result in community college credit are going to receive starting points off the bat. And programs with standards that result in or accompanied by community college certificates and degrees will also receive extra points off the bat. You'll receive a greater number of extra points if you're leading to a degree or a certificate than if you're just leading to credit. So those are all of the updates really that I have for the CAI grant. Again, it's going to be open as soon as possible. Basically, at this point, it's going to be largely the same application format as before. So if you want to look back at that application or the previous RFA in preparation, that's a good strategy at this point. Another funding source that I'm going to get into, and I can only really touch on briefly because it's really new and just going out, is the Chancellor's Office is getting behind a new demonstration project that's called the Apprenticeship Pathway Demonstration Project. So this is really an invite-only project at this time. The Chancellor's Office has invited roughly 25 colleges to participate in this effort. Those colleges were invited based off of NOVA RSI data and Launch Board apprenticeship data. And colleges that may want to partake in this program after this initial demonstration round, there's going to be opportunity for that. This demonstration round is just really to set up a standardized process that then colleges can follow afterwards. The point of the program is to establish policies and system structures to provide community college credit for related and supplemental instruction, and to provide credit for prior learning experience through credit for on-the-job training that apprentices experience. So we're trying to get credit for apprentices based off of the experiences they've already had and then the education that's going to be coming forthcoming. The idea there is that their education is just about as valuable as other education that we provide and should be for credit. And then that'll allow apprentices to have an easy access point to other community college certificate and degree programs by starting with that credit that they'll receive through their apprenticeship program. Finally, last update I want to get into is that the Chancellor's Office is going to be presenting at Fall CCCAOE Conference. We're going to have a pre-session that is going to be hosted primarily by Jobs for the Future, but also have a representative from the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. We're anticipating that the Deputy Chief, Adele Burns, will be able to attend, and the Chancellor's Office will also be participating. This is a pre-conference session, and it's specifically for CAI planning grantees from the December 2022 round. Invitations, if they've not already gone out, will go out very shortly to those entities. It's not technically invite only, but it is specifically for those planning grantees. We're going to provide technical assistance to those grantees in order to ensure that we get successful registrations by the end of the year. This is the point of the session, and then more technical assistance will be provided throughout the year. Additionally, the Chancellor's Office and the Chancellor's Office Foundation Grow Apprenticeship team are going to be jointly putting on a breakout session during the conference. That session is going to be a highlight of the current apprenticeship landscape in California, the data that we have on the program so far and successes and where they're located. We're also going to give a recap of CAI and RSI programs, and then the Grow Apprenticeship team is going to give a get into the technical assistance services and programs we offer.
Thank you, Sean. That was a perfect segue because guess who's here? Grow Apprenticeship. You covered a lot of announcements, so I have the recording. I'll try to summarize it for the group in my next email, and I'll check with you before we move into Grow Apprenticeship because we have their team here. They'll be talking next. Do you happen to know the due date for the next CAI?
It's very, very tentatively October 20th is the due date. That was what we were working with when we were anticipating that it would already be released at this point, though. So we're going to adjust that deadline.
Yeah, I was going to say that's really soon. Okay.
It is going to have to be a quick turnaround, though, because we have to get the applications reviewed and then everything approved by BOG in order to get everything out on time. And as early as we started last year, we still are releasing agreements 2 months late at this point. So the earlier, it's really like we got to get things quickly.
Okay, well, everyone get your pens ready if the next one's going to be due pretty soon. Okay, well, thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, and applause for you. Thank you for being here.
Have a good rest of the day. Great,
thank you. And with that, I would like to introduce our team that will be talking to us next. So Sean gave a great pre-intro. We have Michelle Von Lopez, Letty Schaefer, Nicole Misley, Kaylee Martin, and Sonia Antondo Reynosa. And they are going to cover different parts of the next part of the presentation. And I'm going to start with this slide, Introduction to Grow Apprenticeship. So wasn't that great? Sean just led the way.
Perfect. Perfect transition.
Okay. And Michelle, you can take it away and tell me when you want me to advance.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Kathleen. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be with you all today. Super excited to see very familiar faces here. So for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just pass it to Kaylee, and she's going to go ahead and kick us off.
Thank you. Kaylee Martin. I'm a senior specialist at the Foundation for California Community Colleges. And we're going to give you a brief overview of Grow Apprenticeship California, what it is, what it does, and who we are. So next slide, please. Grow Apprenticeship California, or GAC, is an initiative of the Foundation for California Community Colleges with funding support from the James Irvine Foundation. The goal of GAC is to support the expansion of apprenticeships across California with a focus on equitable access. We all know apprenticeships are a great strategy for economic mobility, but it needs to be done through an equity lens in order to make sure it's available to everyone. So statewide, we have about 1,900 folks who are affiliated with Grow Apprenticeship California in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of diversity among this group in terms of where they are in their apprenticeship pathway journey, folks who are just learning about apprenticeships, folks who are implementing apprenticeships successfully, and then folks who are teaching people how to implement apprenticeships successfully, as well as a lot of different non-traditional sectors that are represented and different roles in the apprenticeship partnerships. So there's a lot of diversity in terms of positionality within the workforce system, as well as their experience and expertise in this space. Next slide, please. So once again, Grow Apprenticeship California is led by the Foundation for California Community Colleges, specifically the Education to Workforce Partnership team. Here we all are. I know Joshua Maudlin would have loved to be here, but he is out this week. So I will just flag that for him. It's an awesome team. We're an awesome team that I am thrilled to be a part of, in part because we get to provide capacity building resources for the apprenticeship ecosystem in California. And so this looks like toolkits. We have a bi-monthly newsletter. We have an online community of practice, webinars, and then virtual and in-person convenings. Next slide, please. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our online community of practice, and then Michelle is going to dig into some of the other cool things that we have to offer. But our online community of practice is on LinkedIn. If you were quick and had your phone ready and used that QR code a couple slides back, you might already be on that page. If not, don't worry about it. We've got links that we're going to share later so you can get connected if you're not already. But we have about 400 members right now in this LinkedIn group. It is a great space for sharing resources and webinars and funding announcements and opportunities, as well as events and other things, tips from the field, articles, all that fun stuff. As well as it's a great place to just stay connected to others who are working in apprenticeship in California, again, across all those sectors, across all those partners. And it's one place that a lot of them are there and able to connect with each other. And I feel like I raced through that, but I'm going to let Michelle get into some of the other good stuff that we've got.
Michelle might be frozen.
She's frozen. All right, I can do it.
She's not responding, so she might be frozen. She may have to get out and come back in.
No worries.
Okay.
For the sake of time, we can keep going.
Okay. Do you want me to go to the next slide?
Yes, please. All right. So some of the other resources we have, I mentioned we've got toolkits, we have newsletters, we have webinars, we have fact sheets. We have a cool funding matrix that you can see a preview of here, as well as other reports and research that we've done as part of Grow Apprenticeship California through partnerships with some of our other partners. They're all available on our website. And when we publish new reports and things, we generally put them in our newsletter, on our LinkedIn, and then we publish them to the website. There's a lot of really great information. This building and growing equity, apprenticeship with equity in mind, one that's previewed here, is just a really cool resource for making sure there's that equity lens to apprenticeship. Again, there's the funding matrix, which is always really popular as making sure that the apprenticeship programs are sustainable, and there's graded funding and those sorts of things. So there's a diversity of resources available. And if you go to the next slide, please.
I think Michelle might be back.
Oh, Michelle.
Are you back, Michelle?
I am so sorry. Of course, my Wi-Fi
froze.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi never fails me. I'm going to go ahead and stay off camera in hopes that I don't freeze up during this. I apologize for that. Kaylee, where did you leave off?
I did the kinds of, so we're just to resource content now.
Resource content. Okay, great. All right, folks, sorry about that. So In terms of resource content, so over the past few years, Grow Apprenticeship California has been committed to supporting the awareness, development, sustainability, and enhancement of apprenticeship programs. So our resources have really been developed in response to the needs of our community of practice and the broader workforce system. So at this point, I want to give you a sense of some of the resources that we've created that you all have access to. So as workforce development investments increased, we received numerous inquiries about how to start apprenticeship programs. And while our team has grown, which is so exciting, especially for the folks on here who remember our team being a team of 2, we now have more capacity, but also not enough capacity to support everyone on a kind of coaching and development way. So in response to that need, we created one-pagers that really illustrate the pathway to developing apprenticeship programs. And these one-pagers cater to the various entry points that we're seeing. So employers, educational partners, and intermediaries, along with resources that are available to support. Additionally, in response to these significant investments and the commitment, right, that was being made across the state to expand apprenticeship, we designed and developed in partnership with subject matter experts, the Equitable Apprenticeship Framework Toolkit and Workbook that really encourages applying an equity lens to every aspect of pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs, such as in the planning, design, and evaluation stage. And this toolkit is equipped with information gathering and action planning tools, along with guidance for reflection, discussion, and planning. Additionally, to promote the awareness of apprenticeship, especially among educators, students, and parents, we developed K-12 fact sheets. And these fact sheets really serve the purpose of answering key questions about apprenticeship and dispelling common myths that are still prevalent in the field of CTE and apprenticeship. Let's see. To foster a better understanding of the role of intermediaries, in supporting apprenticeships, we created a comprehensive report that sheds light on what an intermediary is, who can take on this role, and the ways they support apprenticeship programs. And this report really came from, I'm sure everyone remembers, right, the 5-point action plan released by DAS. And one of the key mechanisms, right, was on expanding intermediaries. And we were hearing from a lot of individuals in our community of practice, like, wait a minute, let's take a step back. What are intermediaries? What do they do? Who can be one? So on and so forth. So we really spent time connecting with various intermediaries that existed already or were becoming intermediaries to develop this report. These are really just a few examples of the valuable resources that are available on our website. We'll share the link on the next slide, but really encouraging everyone on here to visit that website so you can access these and a bunch of other resources that can be really instrumental in your work. Next slide, please. All right, so we want to make sure that you can easily connect with our team, become part of our community of practice, access our resources, and stay up to date with the latest developments. So as Kaylee mentioned earlier, we do release a bi-monthly newsletter to our community of practice. This newsletter is packed with valuable content, including resources, success stories, funding announcements, upcoming events, and a ton of other things. You can easily sign up to join our COP and subscribe to our newsletter through our website or by using the link provided in the chat. Another way to stay connected is by joining our LinkedIn community of practice. So you can find a direct link to join there. Here we share all of our updates, first, resources related to apprenticeship. It's a space for networking, asking questions, and sharing resources. We don't have any strict rules. We'll have community of practice members who will share resources, events that they've seen on listservs that they are a part of. So feel free to do the same. And again, our website is really this hub of information. One of the goals for Grow Apprenticeship California is to create a one-stop shop-like place that has access to all of the resources that you can need. And we're not saying that the website is that just yet, but we're definitely aiming to create that, right? For that to be a one-stop shop for all resources that folks need, so that you don't have to be jumping around across a ton of different websites. So the link has been dropped in the chat. You can access that treasure trove of resources on the website. And I am complete. Now I'll try to come back on camera.
Was there another page after that, or do we have time for
the next slide would be CARCAT and LEAEP.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's pause here for a few minutes, and I had some questions that have come from folks that I wanted to just pose for you. Then we're going to have our next set of presenters, and then we'll have time for some questions from the audience. So just a quick question: do you all do you work with DAS, and do you have the ability to interface with DAS around any challenges colleges are having, or is it more peer support, or it seems like there's technical support, but it's not individualized. So if you could kind of answer those two questions, that would be great.
Absolutely. That's a great question, Kathleen. So we do work directly with the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. We like to meet with them regularly just to touch base, share what we're hearing from our community of practice. We've also had DAS join us for various events, events that cover, for example, demystifying the registration process. This webinar is actually recorded and it lives on our website. So demystifying that process, navigating through complex challenges with registering and addressing those standards, right? We've also done sessions with them on understanding the funding landscape. We've done listening sessions with DAS. And that's one of the things that we like to do when we meet with them, is really sharing with them some of those common challenges that we're hearing from our community of practice, to help troubleshoot, right, some of those challenges, or even just to bring light to what we're hearing from the field as well.
Okay, so you do that more through input and with DAS. So it seems like if a college has individual challenges, they would have to go right to the source, either the state chancellor's office or
Correct.
DAS. Okay.
Correct. We try to do sessions that are tailored to addressing some of those specific challenges. They'll both be on the general side, but also targeted to specific challenges. But it's done for our community of practice. It's not necessarily one-on-one. That would have to be through DAS directly.
Okay. You may have heard more about this, but I know DAS is in the midst of hiring, and they've got a backlog, probably fueled by all of our excitement over non-traditional apprenticeships and growing apprenticeships. So they actually have a staffing shortage, is what I've heard. So maybe if you can tell us kind of what you know, and if you have heard anything about their timeline being delayed with getting back to people, or I know they're hiring. So
that's a great question, Kathleen. And to be honest, at least from my understanding, it's pretty much about the same. I know they're hiring. I know with the commitment, right, to expand apprenticeship across the state, there are a lot more investments that are being made. So they're trying to establish, right, an infrastructure at DAS to be able to support to the capacity that they want to support. I don't know much about the hiring process or where they're at with it, to be completely transparent.
Okay. And then the last general question, and then we'll go right into Career Catalyst and have time for more questions after, is that in our region, we've had growing interest by K-12 and county offices of ed, K-12 districts, around pre-apprenticeship and dual enrollment. And, as you know, the chancellor's office is prioritizing dual enrollment, and it sounds like the next CII grant is going to prioritize dual enrollment. So how are you working with high schools or K-12s or county offices to help? Well, tell me what some of the challenges are when we're working with community colleges and then high schools and linking. And I know in our region we have some methodology around our dual enrollment leads, but it seems challenging.
Definitely. So I'll start with a little bit about our role, essentially, right? So our technical assistance offerings, as we've shared, right, they're open to all, regardless of the sector that folks represent. We really believe in fostering collaboration and knowledge across systems, across the board completely. So while it's open to everyone, we do host events that are tailored to specific audiences. In this case, right, we have designed events to focus specifically on the needs of community colleges or K through 12 or county offices of ed. Last year, we did a session with educators. Through a consulting company, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but essentially this was focused specifically on helping them understand the ABCs of apprenticeship and how to dispel those common myths that they're seeing. Because what they're encountering when working with students and parents and trying to bring apprenticeship, right, as an option for students or students that have stopped out, right, with trying to figure out their next steps, is that there's a lot of resistance. There's still a lot of reluctancy with apprenticeship. So we did a presentation on dispelling those myths. That's why we also created those fact sheets. So sharing those resources and things of that nature. In terms of some of the challenges that are being faced, so we know one of the big challenges, right, is it's on capacity. It's on capacity. It's on, do we have the appropriate infrastructure, right, to design and develop these apprenticeship programs? It's also been about how to best engage with employers, right? Building those partnerships with employers is essential for apprenticeship programs. But there has been challenges, right, with convincing businesses to participate and commit to the program model, especially when they're unfamiliar with apprenticeship fundamentally. So we've tried to cater a lot of our events to just building awareness on apprenticeship and also inviting employers to these different conversations as well to start building their awareness on it. I know community colleges have shared, right, the marketing and outreach to potential students as employers has also been a significant challenge just because of the limited experience, right? And as we all know, not just in the community college setting, but in nonprofits, we're all wearing tons of different hats. So feeling that they're not equipped with the knowledge or background to do that kind of marketing and outreach. And I know we can go on and on about some of these different challenges.
No,
so
that's a great answer. Thank you, Michelle. That helps. Yeah. It sounds like we're all facing some of the same issues. So let's go to Career Catalyst. And for the Career Catalyst team, thank you for being here. And we're especially interested in Career Catalyst and LAPE and how this might work in our sector or may not work. So I'm going to go to the next slide and just tell me when you want me to advance.
Thank you. Thank you all. My name is Sonia Enchundo Reynoso. I am a specialist within the Workforce Development Department at the Foundation. And I'm especially excited to be here with all of you today since the project I'm assigned to has me working with many of you in the Bay Area. My colleague, Letty Schaefer, and I will be delving right into all the details surrounding Career Catalyst, a brief history, and our service offerings, as well as the benefits of working with us as it pertains especially to LAPE. Next slide, please. So to dive right into it, workforce development has been at the core of the foundation since its inception in 1998. And it all began with Career Catalyst. Career Catalyst was established to help state agencies in providing short-term paid work experience for students by shouldering the human resources responsibilities and then mitigating the risks that are associated with those responsibilities. Since then, we have expanded our reach and support the private sector now, community colleges, and nonprofit organizations. And just a brief glance at our impact for fiscal year 2023. We have onboarded over 4,000 employees who've earned wages of $15 million at over 1,600 work sites. Next slide, please. So let's dive right into the operational details of our service offerings. Our objective is to allow our clients to focus on their program work with minimal concerns about the operations of it all. So we do this by leveraging Workday, which is a cloud-based human resources and finance system. And we facilitate the onboarding process of participants in partnership with our clients to designate those participants as employees of the foundation for the entire duration of their work experience. So they're short-term employees of the foundation. And our approach offers dedicated coordinators to support our client partners through that process of the hiring paperwork and the termination paperwork, and also provide training on how to work through Workday so that our partners can easily access the timesheets of the participants and have access to reports that might be needed. Another great thing is that as official employees of the foundation, those participants are safeguarded under our comprehensive workers' compensation policy. And so what that means for all of you is that we manage any claims should an injury occur. Next slide, please. And so how we meet your needs, I think the two areas that I really want to focus on here is we have over 20 years worth of experience in supporting work-based learning opportunities for students and job seekers. And we've served both small programs with as little as 5 participants, and large programs with more than 200 participants. And then the other thing really is that our approach is not a one-size-fits-all. We meet with our client partners and really try to get a great understanding of what their needs are, and specialize in working with your program as best as we can. We do not require pre-employment screening, but can offer it if a work site does require it. And we are experienced in working with youth and the required paperwork involved with that. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Letty.
Thanks, Sonia. Next slide, please. Okay, so Kathleen asked us to touch a little bit on LAPE, which is the Learning Aligned Employment Program, and how Career Catalyst can support college campuses that have received that funding and are looking to implement those programs. So LAPE is an initiative funded through the California Student Aid Commission, CSAC, and the foundation is not an official partner in implementing LAPE. However, we have had a number of conversations with CSAC around how Career Catalyst might support colleges as they implement, especially with particular gaps that there might be with LAPE and any challenges to implementation. So I think many of those are the ones that Sonia has already detailed out for us here. But one of the important sort of stipulations under LAPE is that there are different increments of reimbursement depending on where the work site, where the work experience takes place. And so, for example, student placements directly on a college campus are eligible for 100% reimbursement of wages. Those that go to a nonprofit entity are eligible for 90% of reimbursement for wages. And then if any private employer placements are eligible for a 50% reimbursement. And so one of the reasons why that is important is that the foundation as a nonprofit employer is able to sort of support colleges in receiving up to that 90% reimbursement, regardless of where the placement actually takes place. And it also allows opening the door to the public sector, which is actually not specifically named under LAPE as a placement. And so we've been sort of out there talking with college partners. We know that this is a 10-year funding program, and that many colleges are just sort of figuring out what it will look like on their campus, which department it will be run out of, what that structure will look like. And so at this time, we're sort of just opening our doors to any colleges that are interested in learning more about Career Catalyst and how we can support you. Next slide, please. Thank you. It's just a little bit about our Career Catalyst contracting model. As Sonia mentioned, we do have a number of different program models, but generally speaking, this is sort of how our contracting works. So the Foundation for California Community Colleges holds a sort of master agreement that outlines all the roles and responsibilities of the service directly with our client partners, who are very often sort of intermediaries. They're community colleges, workforce development boards, nonprofit organizations who essentially have a paid work experience program already, where they identify their own participants, their own worksite partners, and then they come to us. These partners often are the ones that hold the funding for the paid work experience. And so then they contract directly with the foundation, and it allows them then to have this sort of participating worksite agreement with a number of external worksite partners who can then act as a host for each participant that is being placed. So that's how our contracting works. Next slide, please. And this is a little bit about our billing structure. And I will say, so this is our billing structure. And then if I have time, I might touch a little bit on some nuances for LAPE. But generally what we do is we have a sort of multi-dimensional pricing formula. It's really based on the program itself. And so it is based on the number of employees that are being served, what their hourly pay rate is, which is determined by our client partners and is at least minimum wage in their area, and then the total hours worked. And so this sort of is determined on a biweekly basis, given actual payroll that the foundation processes. So it also incorporates sort of payroll taxes on behalf of the employer, which includes, that can vary because it will be different depending on the student's sort of worksite placement and what their workers' compensation rate is. So we take that all up, we bill on actuals in a payroll period, and we apply our 18.8% indirect rate to all those paid wages and paid sort of payroll taxes. We also do have a one-time $100 onboarding fee at the time of hire. That just covers our costs for setting up a profile in our Workday system for the employee. And once they're in, they're in. So if they get rehired, we do not recharge the fee. So this is our Career Catalyst standard billing structure. We do also have some other services, as Sonia mentioned. We have the ability to process pre-employment screening, so that can affect the rate. And we also do issue work readiness related stipends for some of our clients as well on request. And then for LAPE in particular, I know there are certain pieces of this that are actually not covered. So payroll taxes cannot be covered under LAPE funding, and only up to 5% of administrative costs are covered under LAPE. And so many of the colleges that we're working with right now are figuring out ways to braid their funding, their LAPE funding, with other sources that they have internally on campus or other grants, and are sort of sorting that piece out now. Okay, next slide. All right, that wraps it up for us here. This QR code will take you to sort of a form that if you're interested in learning more, we can set up a consultation call and just talk more with your programs individually, or feel free to reach out to myself or Sonia. Thank you all.
Thank you, team. And we probably have time for 2 questions, 2 or 3. A few came in the chat, and they're actually related to what had come in prior. So I just want to comment on those. So thank you so much. The reason why LAPE was important to us is that it seems like a logical fit to have students in our sector be able to work in the sector, either in their pre-apprenticeship time or be hired to work in classrooms as they need experience, obviously, before they can move forward as apprentices. So, but I know there are challenges. So I just want to, there are a couple things have come up. One is this low administrative reimbursement rate from LAPE, which is, it sounds like you have to seek outside funding. So I would think that when LAPE is being re-envisioned, I heard that they're looking at some policies now to change. That would make sense. It would also seem that our local workforce investment boards would be interested in some of this. But can you tell us a little bit about if you know of other funding sources that people are using? We've got a few people in the chat that have said they can't use LAPE because of the low admin reimbursement costs. We've also had some folks say they can't use LAPE because there's a preference for full-time students, and a lot of our students are part-time, so they're not approved for full financial aid. And the last issue you mentioned is public sector employment. So obviously in ECE and EDU, a lot of our students are doing their work. Some are in obviously nonprofits. Others might be in public school classrooms. So how does that fit if it's public sector employment? And then we did have a question in the chat about, is the college the employer or is the employer the employer in a LAPE placement? So there were kind of 4 questions in there. Just take a stab at it. We only have 4 minutes, so.
Okay, I'll do my best. And actually, Sonia, I didn't realize the time. Do you feel good about this? Sorry, actually.
Yeah. Yes, I feel good about this.
And thank you, Letty.
Okay, let me try to start with the challenges of that 5% administrative fee. So, or allocation, I should say. It is, as Letty mentioned, we are not affiliated with CSAC, and the challenge is that LAPE is, administered through the California Student Aid Commission, and I don't think that they that anyone thought through, not really CSAC, but that anyone thought through that campuses may not have the infrastructure to add an additional employee without funding to manage this, nor do I think that anyone really thought through that it might be the kind of undertaking that it's turning out to be. But as you mentioned, we have also heard that, you know, there is discussion about those challenges. So we are also hopeful that change will be coming to assist colleges in that implementation, especially since it is a 9-year program. And I think that, you know, the idea of LEAP really hits home, right? It's a good idea. We just have to work out those implementation kinks as we are moving forward. The other question I heard was about part-time versus full-time students. So and I'm not with CSAC, but according to the handbook and the colleges that we've worked with, part-time students are eligible for LEAP, but again, LEAP funding is tied to financial aid. So if there's, you know, if there's challenges, that's the challenge, is that it's tied to financial aid. The greatest challenge I've heard, truthfully, is finding the eligible students.
Right.
And it has more to do with students having enough unmet need so that they can work a reasonable amount of hours, you know, to pay those bills that LEAP was intended for, but also to benefit the employer. So that's probably the greatest challenge that I've heard. And then I think your last question had to do with the public sector.
Yeah, and if you had mentioned, Letty had mentioned the college being the employer and then placing students in public classrooms, or can you clarify who the actual employer might be, especially in a pre-apprenticeship situation or an apprenticeship situation? And then obviously nonprofits are good placement sites, but what about public schools?
So according to the LEAP handbook, public schools are an eligible employer site. So I think that if there were, you know, a specific a job description, then that would need to go to CSAC. But according to the CSAC handbook, it is an eligible employer site. And then in terms of Career Catalyst, well, and the CSAC handbook, the college can also be the employer, a work site. However, any student that is placed on a college campus, community college, CSU or UC, there is a research component attached to that. So if the college is the employer, then the student has to conduct some research. However, research is not really clearly defined. A lot of colleges are attaching a research paper. So a student has to write a 1-page paper, and that's the research component.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah. Okay, that's interesting, because that research would not be the reason why our students are placed, I think, but
yeah, and so
more hands-on practical experience.
Right. And I think that's why a lot of community colleges are, so for example, if a student is placed on the campus, well, they're not LEAP, but we're exploring, could we maybe pilot a couple LEAP students? But with Diablo Valley College, we have partnered with them for some virtual film production internships. And let's use that as an example. Those students would maybe have to write a research paper on, I don't know, the history of film production. But just as an example, I think that's what a lot of colleges are doing.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I think we're at time. And I think that we probably have, more questions than we have time for, but I really appreciate all of you being here. Thank you to our participants and thank you to our panelists. And we'll be in touch. So any final words, or I think people are signing off. Oh,
Thank you for having us, Kathleen.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Kathleen, do you have a second to check in?
Sure.
Looks like we have some other folks. I just wanted to let you know that you're asking for slides for the ACTEP conference.
Oh, right.
Give me the date again. I'm so sorry. I'm playing catch up right now.
October 18.
Okay, we're good. No, that's when we're going. When do you want the slides by?
Oh, October 1st would be great.
Perfect. I'm gonna
just a few.
Okay.
We have a lot of panelists, so 3 maybe.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. I'm gonna be MIA for the next couple of weeks. I'm traveling and doing a little vacation. So we'll see how that goes.
You deserve it, Tina.
I do. But it also stresses me out because I know so much can happen in 2 weeks in the world around here. So I just wanted to let you know, you'll see it from me when I get back.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Have a
bye.
good day.